There's like historical models, there's fantasy, there's sci-fi, there's animals. It's basically a fantasy world in real life. Like, there's just unlimited options. There are people that are working on things that are probably like exclusively 28 millimeters that are like itty bitty. And then there's people that do like statues, I guess, of characters that might be like a foot tall. And like all of that is encompassed within miniature painting. So that's what's kind of nice about this hobby, is how like diverse it is, not only in scale, but even like methods of painting or like materials that people are using. You can go anywhere with it. So I got introduced to painting miniatures through my husband. My first ones were these little spiky dogs that I painted. And for some reason, I wanted to paint them to look like sea urchins in my head. And I just love the creativity with it. Like you can take these things and do whatever you want with them. I just love that, like the sculpt, even like this dog creature, like it was just so cool to look at. So it's like appreciating someone else's art while you're making art is like a cool way to almost like collaborate, even though it's like, I don't know this person. And then when you're working on something that's so small, it's like your brain turns everything else off. So I'm not worrying about work. I'm not worrying about, something going on with my kids. It's just, I want to paint the eye, and I want to make sure I'm not painting anything else other than this tiny little eye. So it's really peaceful too. I'm not doing a lot of scratch building personally, but like it can be models that you are 3D printing, it can be models that you're buying, it could be models that you are building literally from like clay to paint. So there's even people that will like buy different model kits but not follow the instructions. So they'll still make their own unique models, and they'll use like this character's arm with this other character's legs, or like, and kind of compile their own figure that way. For me, it will usually start with like finding the model. I'll see something that I'm like, oh my gosh, that would be so fun to paint. I have my paintbrushes. I have a wet palette that I use. Acrylic paints, they just dry really fast, so having a wet palette makes them usable for longer. And it helps me to get like blends of colors because I can mix my paint directly on that wet palette. I have my lamp, which helps. Definitely lighting is important when you're working on something that's really, really tiny. The lighting helps you just like see the details of the miniature. Otherwise, I'm pretty sure their eye paint would end up on their nose or something, which I don't really want. I don't have a magnifying glass. It's probably also like another hobby upgrade in the future, but I feel like I'm getting by okay without it. Yeah, so for the models, you want to prime them with some kind of, we use like a rattle can, spray can primer on the models first, and that helps it so that the paint will actually stick to them, because if you just use the paint directly on plastic, it doesn't really want to adhere very well. I usually start with like whatever part of the model just seems most appealing to me. So I like painting hair a lot. So like if it's a female character, I'll start with her hair. I've grown to enjoy painting faces. I didn't originally. That's the thing. But I do like painting them now. I think it's just like, it's really is the focal point of the character. If they have some kind of weapon, I usually paint those last, just because I don't love painting the weapons for some reason. It's usually like painting a metal, and metal can be tricky to paint because it's like the reflections on it. Physically, I have some challenges myself. I have actually like familiar tremors. So my hands are naturally like shaky. So it makes it probably a little bit more challenging even, but I really like that challenge. And it's something that like I've figured out tricks even to make my hands steadier. So even like the way I hold the model or the way I hold my paintbrush. Yeah, I'm not like afraid of going too small. I'm always more afraid of going too big with miniatures, which seems so strange. Miniatures are so appealing because you see results with them a lot faster because they're so small. Like you can make a lot of progress in just an hour amount of time. Whereas I don't know that I was seeing those quick payoffs on other forms of painting. Nice. I mean, sometimes I'll look at an image. I'll do that if it's like a character from like pop culture. So if it's a Star Wars character or a Marvel character and I want them to be true to whatever their character is supposed to look like, I'll look at an image of them. But I mostly like to just go completely rogue with my painting, and like I think that's a lot of the fun part. But yeah, there's tons of like beginner friendly steps out there, because they'll break it down to you to be like name of the paint color and everything, so you know specifically like what yellow they're using. And the nice thing about miniatures too is that like if you feel like you messed up on something, you can paint over it. Like it's definitely not like the end of the world if you feel like you messed up, or like there's even a few instances where I didn't like something, so I completely stripped the paint off of it. And then it just kind of either lives on my mantle and display, or will be put in a box to be used for a game whenever we get around to gaming. So I kind of really wired my brain to feeling like this is supposed to be fun. So if I get to the point where I'm painting a model and I'm like, I am not liking looking at this thing anymore and I just want to be done, then I'm done. Like I don't push myself to the point where I'm like, it needs to be the best I can do every single time. Like I paint till it stops being fun, basically, or when I just want to move on to something different. So yeah, there's always more you can do to a piece, but if you really want to, like you can always go back to something later. And nothing ever has to be like set in stone. Like paint is workable. Like you can add another layer to paint. Like I'll look at stuff I did just a few months ago and be like, oh my God, it's so bad. Like, because your skills like really grow in such a short amount of time.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe to discover more hobbies and visit notjustahobby.com to learn more.